I will ask that you suspend chewing for the moment. Just suspend mastication. Yes, that's the scientific word for chewing. As we rise to our feet to officially start, we're Africans. We have to have a starting point, and the starting point here is going to be the anthems. Okay, we have two anthems. That's the Kenyan anthem, national anthem, and also the East African anthem. So please rise to your feet. The other anthem. We're combining an anthem with the moment of silence. Okay?
Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu. Jumuiya yetu, uzalendo pia mshikamano, iwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike.
The speaker is muted.
Nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu, viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu
in the absence of a school song, you may be seated. Hey, first of all, how many of you know at least the chorus of the East African anthem? Wow. Okay. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done in that sense. Maybe they need to turn it into a TikTok tune and do some challenges. Then we'll all learn the chorus of the East African anthem. Welcome to this fantastic event. Now, when I say fantastic event, before I even get to the fantasticness of the event, if you're just coming in, yes, please register. You can proceed and serve yourself something to eat once you've identified where you're going to be seated, and then we get straight into it. I'd like to welcome those who are joining us online from different continents, some of which are experiencing the sunshine that we are supposed to be having at some point in our lives. It must be nice where you are, nice and warm. But right here in the African winter, we welcome you to the launch. Let me call it, in some ways, a culmination, and in other ways, what do you call it? A springboard to the next step. A culmination of a journey that has been 3 or so years in the making, and you'll hear a lot more about that. I will be carrying you through the program, guiding you through the program. My name is Yafesi Musoke, and we will be hearing from lots of people. Some we refer to themselves as experts. Others prefer not to be referred to as experts, but I will refer to them as experts. Before we get to that, I just want to do a little test in this, at least within this room. Now, that test is coming right after. We're still having people. I'm actually buying time for the ones who are standing at the door so that I can also point out that if you need washrooms, straight out that door, turn to your right, go to the next door, the next building. Immediately you get into that door. Don't even get to the reception. Don't even look at the reception area. Don't look anywhere else. It's an immediate left. Once you get immediate left, don't even, in fact, hide your face. That's how far left you're going. You're going along the wall, left, and you'll see a sign that says washrooms. And then to the left is the ladies, the right is the gents. So that's where the washrooms are. If you need a hot beverage, now the immediate left is at this door. So the hot beverages are immediate left right outside here. So if you need to stay warm, please feel free to do so. And then also, we are live streaming. So as much as possible, try not to interrupt or interfere with the feed or the cameras. So don't go standing in front of the cameras, or at least for prolonged periods, or bending in front of them because you'll block the feed. Also in line with that, please have your phones on silent or in meeting mode so that we don't just have random ringtones that we know of that have been become popular. So just please respect the space and put your phones on silent. Now, we come to what I was talking about, the excitement. So you all have 10 fingers. I hope. If you don't, it's okay. We still accept you as you are. So I might interrupt some of you who are digging into your food right now. Please hold up your 10 fingers. So what I'm going to do is say a number of things. I'll ask a number of questions, like, have you ever done this? Now, if you have done it, one finger goes down. If the answer is in the affirmative, one finger goes down. So I'll ask you, have you ever binge-watched a TV series and finished it? Finished a series in one day. All right. So one finger goes down if you have done that. One finger goes down. Have you ever in your life skived school or class? Yeah, people are revealing themselves now. Have you ever, at any point in your life, gone 24 hours or more without a shower? Wow, those are many fingers that went down. Okay. Have you ever gotten lost in a foreign country? There are fingers that are vanishing. There's a reward for people here. Have you ever attended a school in which your parent was a teacher or a member of staff? Then, have you ever lived on your own, lived alone. It might even be current. I don't know. Have you ever gotten a tattoo? Right. No, don't show the tattoo. Just put the finger down. Have you ever run a marathon or a half marathon? Finger down. Have you ever lied to a police officer? Woo-wee. You know, this is, I'm trying, but I'm protecting you. It can be anonymous. You don't have to shout out your life story right now. Have you ever deleted a post on social media because it didn't get enough likes? Have you ever broken a bone in your body? Any bone? Have you ever been in a physical fight? Have you ever swam in the ocean? And finally, have you ever attempted a trendy diet, whether it's no carbs, no meat, no milk, no dairy, I don't know, no what, no any? Have you ever attempted any of those? Okay. Does anyone have more than 5 fingers up? Anyone with 5? 5 fingers? Oh, we have one. Does anyone, what's the next closest? Anyone with 4? 4 fingers there. 3? 3, 2? 1? 1. So the rest are on 0. You guys have lived a full life. Now, there's a reward for the one who, yes, the one who let's see, I'll find a reward. I have to find a reward somewhere. Just, yes. Yes. So, the rest we'll discuss. We'll discuss, yes. The reason I'm doing all this, when I asked you those questions, most likely you went back to a time in your life when you were either in school or university or, well, you were younger. All right? So those are a lot of things that happened back then. And the world has changed in that time since we were in school. Even the way school is done has changed. Education has changed. The demands of education have changed. Some of the stuff we learned back then, we look back and we think, hey, what was the point of all that? It was pretty useless, as we might think of it now. So what do we do with a changing world? Right now, we are in a phase where we have people joining in online to discuss what we're here to discuss today. Before, we never had that. Some of us grew up in the age of dial-up internet. Some of us grew up when there was no internet. But today, we have an amazing innovation brought to you by people who are involved in the world of innovation, like steeped deep in the world of innovation. We're bringing together sustainable development and science, technology, and innovation. But I'm not going to be the one to tell you all about this. In fact, I have to do this name justice. I have to do this gentleman justice. So instead of introducing him just the normal way, let me give him his own movie trailer. Dun dun. Dr. Joel Onyango is the head of CRE. Not the CRE that you know. I'm talking about climate resilient economies. That's the program at ACTS. Joel has worked for 15 years in research and management with a focus on science, technology, and innovation, climate change adaptation and mitigation, natural resources management, markets, and sustainable development. I could go on, but suffice it to know that Joel was nominated Green Coach of the Year 2022 by GIZ for his support to African small businesses within the We Do project in cooperation with the African diaspora in Europe. This gentleman is a visionary, and you are about to have the privilege of hearing from him. So please put your hands together as we welcome Dr. Joel Onyango.
Good morning. When FSC was introducing me, I was for a moment there wondering if it's the same person that I know. Yeah, but my name is Joel. I lead the Climate Resilient Economies Program at ACT, and that's the pioneer program within ACT that is focusing on the training academy that you're launching today. So for those people who don't know, the African Center for Technology Studies is an intergovernmental organization, a think tank, that focuses on application of ST&I, science, technology, and innovation, as a way of enabling development within the continent. ACT has been in place older than I am, but in all these years that it has been running, there are certain aspects that have been constant, and that is policy engagement, policy support, policy research, as well as components associated with capacity building and knowledge brokerage. In that regard, what we are building now is a legacy of continuing requirement and continuing vision of the founder of the African Center for Technology Studies, the late Calestus Juma, whose vision lives on within the ACT component in itself. So as we today discuss about and try and launch the academy, which is really very ably been positioned as pathways. I don't know how many people associate with the word pathways. Any suggestions in the room? What does pathways mean to you? Michael? A road, a network, going left, right, up, down. Any other suggestions? Pathways. I'm looking at the farthest table to the back. Isaiah. Thanks for that. So when you're thinking about pathways, you're thinking different routes, right? So what we are saying is that we need to build capacity, we need to put us forward, but as that happens, it's not a straight line. It's a pathway, it's a path, it goes up, down, it goes sideways. But as that happens, we are actually focusing on enhancing capacity. And when you're thinking about the academy, the first question is why? And I think I had a presentation, but as the team continue connecting, we'll see this. The question is why think about the academy at all? Two reasons. For those people in climate change, you know about the action on climate empowerment. Action on climate empowerment and climate change being a central thing that is being part of our discussion right now, locally and globally, is that there are effects that we are seeing, there are discourses for climate action, but empowerment for that action to happen starts with capacity building, starts with enabling environment, starts with business in that space. And therefore, the reason we are building towards these pathways, recognizing multiple routes in which we can enhance capacity, that is at the center of ACE, for those people who are in climate change know, action on climate empowerment. The second aspect, why we are doing this academy, is about sustainable development. And here is not about the universal nature of sustainable development goals, but it's about at a country, as a continent, what are we doing towards sustainable development, and how is science, technology, and innovation enabling that perspective? Yeah, so as I was saying, we are doing the academy because of two reasons: S component of the climate action agenda and the sustainable development aspect of the continent. Importantly, that it has to be enabled in some way based on science, technology, and innovation, the center in which ACT plays a critical role. And when you're looking at it in that regard, of course, you have to ask yourself, why is climate change a concern? And three reasons. Aspects of climate justice. There's continuous conversation about, what Africa is responsible versus what Africa is getting. So climate justice is a center of discourses on climate change. The aspect of the future of emissions, we are saying that based on certain degrees, then climate change becomes a problem, yeah? And continues to become basically eviscerating some of the systems that we know. And finally, that we want to be able to sustain the activities, the actions that we are building towards. And secondly, as we look at international discourses, whether you're talking about sustainable development goals, or importantly, in climate change, talking about the Paris Agreement or the UNFCCC provisions, you have to talk about technology, you have to talk about financial support, and you have to talk about building demand-driven capacity building in which this particular Pathways Academy centers on. Importantly, this journey, as Efesi had indicated, did not start today. We have gotten a lot of motivation by having done some trainings. We have so far engaged with over 200 different trainings.
um, he's been leading these efforts. He's a thinker, you know, he thinks outside the box and does things that some of us never think about. So we really benefit from his visionary thinking. My name is Catherine Kilelu, and I head the Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Security Program at ACT. The Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Security Program, I guess it's obvious. What we're looking at is how do we contribute to sustainable and and inclusive agri-food systems transformation in the continent. And so how do we leverage science, technology, and innovation in the process? So there are different entry points for us as a program. So we work on issues around digitalization of agriculture. We work on issues around climate-related or climate action-based agri-food systems transformation. We work on trade. So how do we leverage regional trade, especially, to really drive the agri-food sector in the region to the next level? And underlying all this work that we do, I mean, we are, I want to say we are farmers, but we're not just farmers. We do so many things. The agri-food system is broader than just farming. What is cross-cutting is training, capacity building, knowledge brokerage. And so we, as a program, we see this virtual academy as something that has just come at the right time. We have been looking at ways in which to deliver demand-driven training support to our stakeholders, looking at ways in which we can reach people in their own spaces rather than, the traditional training, bringing people in a brick-and-mortar space and deliver training. So for us, we are working very closely with Joel, and first just observing how this is going to pan out with the CRE program. They have been very instrumental in just being at the front line of thinking about how do you deliver, how do you design training programs that are demand-driven, what kinds of modules do you put on offer for different stakeholders. And so for us as a program, the Agriculture, Food and Nutrition Security Program, we see 3 areas in which this virtual academy is going to be very instrumental for us. One, we have already been trying to work on our own training programs. Most of them have been face-to-face. And because of the uniqueness of agriculture, meaning some of the work or the things that we do and the training that we offer requires very hands-on, practical type of training. So for example, we are working on enhancing solar drying technology. And one of the things that we found is that there's huge capacity gaps in the sector. And so we've been working with the fabricators, the people who are actually delivering or designing this technology to try and see where the capacity gaps in terms of skills and capacities. And so for such a program, the training requires that you can deliver kind of more theoretical kind of knowledge to the actors, but you also require that you go out to the field and work with them on a very practical level to really give them the hands-on skills on designing and manufacturing or putting together solar drying technology. So what we see this academy, it's going to provide us with the opportunity to even record some of this training, even up to the practical level, and put it up on a platform like this. And the people who would wish to get trained or to build their capacity, enhance their capacities in different ways, can then have their own self-paced ways of understanding what to do about design, for example. So we're going to use this platform for such purposes. The second thing we want to do is really, as Joel has said, I mean, climate action is underlying all this work on climate resilient economies, which is very fundamental for the agri-food sector. So what we see the value for this platform is we are going to already leverage on the courses, the modules that are on offer, and direct our partners to register for these courses and to learn through this academy. So we're already benefiting from the hard work that has gone into developing some of the modules that are very critical for people who are thinking about sustainable agriculture, sustainable agri-food systems, and in relation to climate action. And then the third thing, we are going to work very closely with Joel to develop kind of a bespoke learning modules that are demand-driven, so not necessarily available on the platform, but they're demanded. So how do we develop modules, training modules, capacity building support to our actors, knowledge brokerage support, in ways that are very customized. So we work very closely with Joel to really leverage this virtual academy. So I think this is for us is already kind of building up and benefiting from efforts that have gone, as you have heard. This is something that has been in the works for the last 3 years. So we just come in and build on it. So we are very excited to be part of this. And Joel, thanks again for taking the lead with this, and we look forward to collaborating with you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Catherine. Winston, also your reflections just on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joel, and good morning to Tim. It's nice to see you. I just wish that there were more faces to fill the tables, but maybe in time, before we are done, we should see a full room. I'm Winston Ojenge. These are my colleagues, Catherine and Joel. I head the digital economy program within the center. And there are 3 ways in which we think we can exploit the virtual academy, which has been Joel's brainchild, a very powerful and innovative idea. And we feel it has also come at the right time. We are currently moving, the center is domiciled at Duduville. Duduville is the Isipe compound, just next to Kasarani Center. But as a program, we are trailblazing to the Konza Technopolis. Of course, we know that the other programs are close on our heels to shift to the Konza Technopolis. Why? Is because we want to exploit the mission and vision that Konza has for this country and for this continent, given that it's probably the first smart city within Africa. And it will be attempting to leverage the digital economy, which is a very powerful tool in the new world. So as we move to Konza Technopolis as a program, there are 3 things that we want to focus on, and it's very topical. The virtual academy is very topical within the 3 plans. One is we want to start an artificial intelligence institute, because our main interest is within the digital economy is AI. The AI institute that we are founding or developing is in attempt to address modeling the demands of business within the country. There's big corp and big tech within the country, like this big supermarkets, the big banks, but even big tech that have branches such as Microsoft, Google, because they are embroiled in our local businesses, which are very unique, have unique specs, different from how they do business in the global north. So we feel that we should be able to offer consultancy in modeling, in data science, so that we are able to model their business transactions and be able to advise with the directions in which their business initiatives take. And we as a group then had insisted that this virtual academy have a big component in project management, a very large project management component, so that we can carry out some of these projects we are talking about within the same platform. Another thing is we also want to embroil ourselves in training in AI and data science and modeling. We know that the best way, we keep hearing the concern that Africa is going to lag behind. The divide between the global north and south is going to be bigger, enhanced by AI, and we are fearful. But one way of addressing this, or attempting to address this, is to make our youth get more familiar with these new technologies. Let our youth gain skills in these emerging technologies as much as possible. That is really the only way. We can't hide in a corner and hope that these new technologies just pass over us. It won't. So as we do this, we need to train our youth massively in these new techs, and then train them with a view to focusing on how to solve our local problems. So therefore, in that connection, we want also to leverage the Virtual Academy for training, but that training should be project-based. Project-based training is extremely powerful. Try to imagine a credit controller in the bank who wants to use machine learning to be able to predict whether whoever wants a loan and walks into their office is the sort of person who will repay the loan. Currently, what do? Oh, they look you up, down, how you're dressed. Maybe if they don't like your shoes, they may deny you the loan. But now, when you leverage machine learning, it has ways of drawing patterns from historical data, massive data, about who took loan and what were their features, gender, age, occupation, and did they pay the loan or not. Then they can use machine learning to be able to predict whether you, with your particular features, are able to pay back the loan. So the credit controller wants to use this technology. So he needs to train. He knows what the banking business, but he does no modeling. Now he wants to learn machine learning. The best way to do that is through projects, a project-based approach. He will learn it himself. No one will stand in a classroom or in a lecture room to teach them. They will be asked within the Virtual Academy that what it is do you want to predict. They will state. They will be asked whatever it is you want to predict, if it is loan repayment, what are the causes? What are the causes of loan repayment or loan non-repayment? They know it better than the trainer. So they will identify these variables which influence whether someone repays back loan or not. And when they have identified these variables become the fields, the dimensions of features for machine learning, because they know it best. Then they'll be told, now bring in your data, because they've been having massive data over years. Bring in your data and place them according to these same variables you're talking about. Then they will bring the data. Then they will be now shown how to commit the algorithms to be able to do this modeling. So it's a very powerful way that we feel we can also leverage. And last but not least is we are intending to develop a virtual laboratory. So the virtual laboratory will enable anyone within the continent to access the massive data center and networks at Konza to be able to apply our tools to do their own modeling wherever they are within their work, within their research studies. And we are asking you to find ways of supporting us and being part of this family as we enact or activate the Virtual Academy. Thank you very much, Joel. Back to you.
Thank you, Winston, for that. And what you see in this regard is that the Academy is not only focusing on climate action, it's focusing on how all these things integrate. It has a perspective of self-learning. It has a perspective of having these short courses, whether these short courses are focusing on practical, hands-on, professional or executive kind of training. It has a component of bespoke, tailor-made kind of learning programs. And whether you're talking about AI, whether you're talking about tailored for specific sectors, tailored for specific kind of activities and actions. And more importantly, we have also the perspective of summer schools. And these summer schools in our tropics, also sometimes tropic schools, and what they do is that they try to make everything that has been learned into practice and bring an environment where people can actually try to practice what they have learned, either through the class, the practical, the self-learning, And later on, perhaps you'll hear that we have our summer school this year between 14th and 21st of August. So if you're interested, please talk to some of our colleagues at the registration desk about that. And of course, if you're online, you can write to us on email or look through our academy website, where you can be able to access some of these areas that we are offering trainings on. But I mean, we can say all this about the Learning Lab, but in the end, I ask myself, so what? So what that we are talking about the academy? We are saying that if the academy in itself, we are able to enhance proficiency in ST&I, AI, machine learning, agriculture, all these different sectors within science, technology, innovation, enabling environment offers us an opportunity where we are training market-led. So even if we are developing a bespoke training solution, that bespoke training solution has to be within the market system, it has to be market-led. It has to be something that once you finish, you are more competitive and more proficient. And their perspective is that we want to work with partners in this room, partners online, to make sure that the training programs we are having, the training modules, and it's a modular kind of training within the academy, they are co-designed, and therefore they are more owned and more likely to succeed and be sustained in different contexts. So we invite you to join us, because if you're joining us, you're having more action towards climate empowerment, and you're also having more action towards science, technology, innovation, to build systems that are more sustainable and to work for Africa. And in that regard, I'd like to say thank you for being here and for offering us this opportunity to discuss with you the academy in many ways, and also to invite you to breakfast. If you have not had something to grab, please go ahead. And as you continue, I'd like to take this microphone back to FSC. And thank you so much, FSC, for convening this. And just to note that behind the whole perspective that we are building on, we have been supported greatly by the ACTS Governing Council. I'd like to recognize that one of the ACTS Governing Council members is in the room, and maybe later on we'll hear from her about different contexts, how the Governing Council comes to play. And also, of course, success in any vision requires a team. We have a big team. We'll introduce them later on, just so that you know that the Academy has quite support from a team that is very able and building towards a vision. Thank you so much, and back to you, FS.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. Like when Winston came up here and mentioned Duduville, hey, that took me back. Because my dad used to work at Isipe. So that's where I first learned about things like tsetse flies and silkworms and the gregarious behavior of the African locust. But that's a story for another day. Right now, for those who have just come in, if you haven't had something to eat, please do so. Get something warm into your bodies. And also, when you came in at the registration desk there, you were given some brightly colored sticky notes on which you were writing. There was something that Martin had asked you to write. If you are done writing that, please raise your hand so that he can come around collecting it. Okay, so please give the sticky note to Martin. Yeah, there's Martin, the one waving his hand right there behind the counter. So if you've written what you were required to write on it, he'll come around and collect it. And just before we hear a few more words, now earlier we had asked those who had joined us online, first of all, a big welcome to the ones who are joining now. And the ones who have been with us, they were introducing themselves, and we want to just say hi to some of them. We have Etiang Okemo Bernard from Mombasa, who works at the Legal Resources Foundation Trust. Thank you for joining us. We have Florence Gashishio, whose organization is the Legal Resources Foundation Trust, and their office is in Nakuru. We have Joseph Kimutai from KCO, working for Legal Resources Foundation Trust. Wilson Gitao, University of Nairobi. Faith Njeri from International Tree Foundation. We also have someone from Zimbabwe here. That's Tashwa Pioneer Gamundani from University of Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us. We have from Siaya, also for the Legal Resources Foundation Trust, we have Elizabeth Otieno. Good morning, everyone. We have joining us, in fact, that one, let me leave it for later. You'll be hearing directly from her. And we have from Kaimosi Friends University, Caroline Mulinya, along with Dixon Andala of the National Research Fund, sorry. And of course, Joseph, who just says, good presentation, Dr. Catherine. All right, and Sam Wanjao also thanks Catherine for the good presentation. And now, Joel informs me there's someone else who is about to speak. Would you like to inform us exactly who that is before we proceed with the rest of the program?
Thank you so much, Efesi. I think I made a recognition that a lot of the support for the academy has come from the ACTS Governing Council, and we have a Governing Council member here who I'd invite to say just a few words about the support the ACTS Governing Council is giving to the academy. That's Professor Catherine. Professor Catherine is a member of the Governing Council, also a member of the Executive Committee of the Governing Council.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Yes, I'm Catherine Muthuri. I work for CIFOR-ICRAF as the country director for Kenya and the convener for East Africa. This is an auspicious occasion for ACTS. I want to commend the team which is leading this program, ACTS Pathway Academy. I in the ACTS board, I'm not only in the executive committee, but I'm in the program committee. And we know capacity strengthening is one of the gaps when filled, when you equip people with skills. And now the skills I'm told about in this academy is about climate change. You know, the government is talking about planting 15 billion trees to counter the impacts of climate change. They are also talking about reducing the gas emissions by 32% by 2030, you see, and reclaiming 10.6 million hectares of land. That is in the Kenya Kwanza agenda and the government agenda. And where I'm working, because I'm working in forestry, we have to work closely with the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry to align CIFOR-ICRAF programs to government priorities. Then we remain relevant. So I'm excited to know that climate change cost is actually a market-driven cost. Currently, the government is looking at the climate finance framework. You know, people want to launch in, did you contribute to the Climate Change Act review? Did ACTS contribute? Excellent. So our contribution in that review means our work is well aligned and we have a voice in there. I did also contribute. But what is more important, you find that carbon trading is something which is now part of the game. One of the main aims of reviewing the Climate Change Act was to put in there climate financing. So ACT is doing things at the right time because capacitating people in climate finance, modeling and policy. At my other life, I did a bit of modeling. And I know one of the roles of modeling is prediction. You know, you can have scenarios in the future to look at using data which is current. And I see you're also using GIS and remote sensing, a powerful tool, which well calibrated with data on the ground, then means that the accuracy of our predictions will be very, very accurate. So I want to commend the team driving this program. I don't know, had I an opportunity, I hope my staff, my Kenya staff, I have some young staff, can enroll for such a course. I don't know how much it costs. On one hand, I'm a member of the Governing Council. On the other hand, I'm your fellow researchers, correct? Yeah, and that is what I find exciting, being a member of the board, Governing Council, because I also resonate well with the needs and the research, especially of research staff. So my team would be very happy to know how is it that they can enroll. I'm told it's a flexible program. You can do it when the rest are doing, either on site or online. And so that is exciting. And so I recognize, I'm told there is a partnership with University of Zimbabwe. I'm told there is partnership with Ethiopia for development and UNESCO. So I think what I've learned, because I also write grants for fundraising, what I have learned is that when you build relationship with a donor, you are able to get more support. So I hope during this time, you are going to develop such partnership with UNESCO so that they get you the second phase of funds, so that you diversify your donor portfolio to a broader one, and we can have a fully financed where you have a loads of money in this academy. So I congratulate you and I wish you all the best. And I know if Professor Ogada were here or other governing council members, they would say kudos to you and wish you all the best. And I would say that this is a program I would personally support because I know it's timely. All the best and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move, try and move a bit quickly now with the rest of the program. But she has mentioned the importance of a course called Climate Change Finance. That one would be something that I'd be very interested in finding out more about. However, you've heard about the pretty much what the academy is about. You know, the APA. Well, if I say APA Academy, that's kind of redundant. So it's APA, or the Acts Pathways Academy. All right, you've heard what it's about. But the how and why in terms of registration, you've heard about, you've been given samples of some of the courses. You've given samples of some of the bespoke modules that are out there. But why should you register? And how do you register? So I leave that to the communications assistant at the Africa Center for Technology Studies, that is Fiona Makayoto. Please give her a hand as she comes up here to give a bit more insight on that.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. I know it's a chilly morning, but it's a good morning. First of all, thank you very much for joining us today to launch this incredible initiative that is the Acts Pathways Academy. It's truly been a journey, a labor of love, if you can call it that. And so to be here today to just launch it, we are so proud and so happy to have you joining us today. So I will quickly take us through our communication channels and how we can register. As Efesi has mentioned, my name is Fiona Makayoto, and I support communications at the African Center for Technology Studies. So very quickly, we are based at ISIPE, Duduville Campus, Kasarani. We also have a presence online. We have a website that is acts-pathways at actsnet.org. So if you visit our website, you will clearly see how to register. All the courses are available there. And as Dr. Onyango has mentioned, we also have a summer school. And I just want to give us a small teaser. The theme for this year's summer school is decolonizing knowledge and learning systems in the global south. Something very interesting. So I really want to encourage us to partner with us. If you want more information on the summer school, my colleagues are here. We have Martin and Liz and Maureen. They have information on that, so please reach out to them. They will give you that information. We are on social media. We are on Facebook. You'll find us on Twitter, find us on LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also have access to our photos on Flickr. So on Facebook, we are African Center for Technology Studies. This is also LinkedIn. And on Twitter, follow us at Acts Pathways, and Instagram at Acts Pathways. Let's continue this conversation online beyond the physical meetings and the webinars. We can at least get to hear from other voices around the continent and the globe. Dr. Onyango also mentioned the kind of services we offer, and I feel like if I say it again, I'll be emphasizing. But we have, of course, bespoke courses. We have training of professionals and executive training. So thank you very much, Efesi. Back to you. Yeah. Asante.
Thank you very much. Okay, now earlier I had mentioned that we're going to, I had mentioned while listing the people who are joining us online and sending their greetings, that there's one that I'm reserving for a special reason. And we are going to hear now from some of the partners here. And one of the people that I had mentioned, that I'm going to mention later, needs another movie trailer. Yes, we're talking about the UNESCO Regional Office Head for Eastern Africa, who possesses over 15 years of experience in gender mainstreaming, in climate change adaptation and mitigation, natural resource and sustainable agriculture, and climate-smart agriculture. I'm talking, of course, about Dr. Mary Nyasimi from UNESCO, and she's joining us online, and we'll be giving her remarks from there. Are we ready to go with that?
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Please proceed.
Good
Thank
morning.
you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I take this opportunity first and foremost to apologize for not being there physically. Our UNESCO driver was bad by an accident along the way, and as you know about Kenyan roads, so he was delayed. Nonetheless, this is an important event that I felt that I could actually join online. I take this opportunity to congratulate ACTS and their partners on the launch of the ACTS Pathways Academy. It's an important academy as we are dealing with issues of climate change across the globe, and particularly in Kenya and Africa, as we have not even contributed much to the climate change, to the greenhouse gases, but we are feeling the hugest impact. And education for climate change is actually an important component as we are trying to deal with this impact. So why are we talking about education for climate change education? First and foremost, it will help people understand and address the impacts of climate change, empowering them with the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes needed to be to act as.
All right, so hope. Medication or any, is there any health consideration that you have for them? And the farmer is like, the black one or the white one? This journalist is like, okay, fine, the black one. So the black one has a special vet, and he comes to visit every so often. All right, and the white one, well, the white one has this special vet who comes to visit every so often. Now the journalist got irritated as I hear myself in surround sound. So the journalist is like, why are you asking me, the black one or the white one, if you're just going to give me the same answers for each of them? And the farmer is like, hey, calm down, my friend, calm down. It's because the black one is mine. Ah, the journalist is like, oh, okay. And the white one, it's also mine. I think we're ready with the feed, because I can hear myself from a different country. I just keep going as it gets set up. I'm hearing myself in surround sound. All right.
The impacts of climate change. And I had mentioned that, climate education, it's important because it will help people understand and address the impacts of climate crisis, as well as empowering them with knowledge, skills, and values and attitudes needed to act as agents of change. And the international community, as well as even our own government, is recognizing the importance of climate change education, particularly it's actually even mentioned in our own national determined contribution, which is our agenda for addressing the impacts of climate change in the country. And at UNESCO, who is a partner with ACTS, and we have actually implemented several projects with them, UNESCO, we do have a program called Education for Sustainable Development, which is a program that gives learners of all ages the knowledge, skills, and values to address interconnected global challenges, including climate change, loss of biodiversity, and sustainable use of resources and inequalities. So within this education for sustainable development, we have 5 priority areas. One is advancing policy. Second is transforming learning and environments. Third is building capacities of educators. Fourth is empowering and mobilizing youth. And fifth is accelerating local actions. Of particular interest for today, I'll talk about transforming learning environments. And for this, UNESCO works to actually make climate-ready learning environments. So we do develop guidelines for schools on climate actions from different levels, primary, secondary, all the way to university, as well as we develop guidelines for accelerating solutions through education, training, and public awareness. The other component on climate change education we talk is about disaster risk reduction. And we do prepare and actually offer training on how to stay safe and be prepared. Different guides for students, teachers, and the parents. As well as I mentioned, we build capacity of those different people. So UNESCO, we have this climate change education program. And as I told you, it helps people understand the impacts of global warming and actually increases what we call climate literacy among young people. And we do produce and share knowledge, provide guidance, policy, and technical support to its member states. And as well as we also mobilize action on climate change through a series of monthly conversations on climate change for social transformation. So through this academy, we'll also be probably holding monthly conversations on climate change education. However, not only do we think about schools, we also think about the community. How do we engage the community? We have a whole school approach that has multiple benefits. Whereas schools become resilient and self-reliant for nutrition, communities also benefit from income generation as well as local environment. So what are some of the things when we talk about climate and education partners? We do work with county and national governments, academics and research partners, and through this we have different approaches or different actions we engage with. So for county and national governments who have the responsibility for the education sector, we try to make education systems climate smart, including mainstreaming climate education consideration across climate education sectors, as well as ensuring that there is allocation of additional financing for climate education. As you know, particularly in Kenya, actually including any issue within the curriculum can take a long time, going through the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development or through the Council of University Education and all that, but we are working towards at least ensuring that climate education is integrated through our curriculum. And then we also working towards providing a seat for education stakeholders at climate change decision-making tables to identify meaningful opportunities to include education in the UNFCCC processes, as well as including those through the NDCs and the national adaptation plans. Something that is new currently is we're going to consider developing sector-specific education national adaptation plans. For the academics as a critical stakeholders, we actually work with them to continue strengthening the evidence base by conducting research to understand what works to address climate change in and through education. For civil societies who are mainly providing advocacy and fighting for climate change actions, we do mobilize young people to advance climate solutions in their homes, schools, and communities. And we also advocate for climate smart education system, and then implement projects in line with pathways for change, and as well as pioneering innovations. For private sector and other philanthropists, we actually worked with them to fund programs and research to strengthen innovation, action, and knowledge towards climate smart education systems. So in brief, that is what UNESCO is doing, and we are actually quite excited for the launch of this Arts Pathways Academy. As I know, we do have several programs that we'll be providing through these academies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nyasimi. Oh, is my okay? My voice is back here now, and we'll be hearing again from another partner. That's a representative from the African Development Bank, and in that regard, I'd like to invite Winnie Mutai, who is the climate change finance expert in that's reaccreditation and readiness, and this is in the climate change and green growth department at the African Development Bank. Please put your hands together as we welcome Winnie Mutai. You can keep the hand claps until it's a long distance.
Hi, good morning to all of you. It's a pleasure meeting you on behalf of my colleague. I think he was to join you, but I had to represent him. He's away on leave and will be away for quite some time. So I lead the readiness and reaccreditation. So I really work for the Green Climate Fund division within the bank. And so when it comes to readiness, which is what this particular, what we call training module, and what I can see the academy is geared towards more of readiness programs, and which is ideally just providing tools for strengthening capacity building. So when it comes to readiness, and what we work within the bank is readiness ideally is how to strengthen the capacity, and in terms of knowledge and in terms of tools to countries when it comes to development of either proposals or programs geared towards climate financing. Now this is our huge challenge, and I can tell you every day we receive this kind of request in terms of how do we design this kind of modules. And so last year on December, I was able to convene what we call direct access entities convening in Cote d'Ivoire in our headquarters, and basically it was a 3-day workshop, and I was training and taking different representatives from ministries of various countries on just how to be able to understand the concept of sustainable financing. Now what was really interesting to me, and why I find the academy may be very timely for me, is we have a gap in 3 areas, and I'm glad that maybe the speakers that came before me were able to highlight, but I'm going to highlight 3 particular areas that we struggled, and now we are really trying to build capacity. Number 1, it's the area of climate governance, how that looks like for people undertaking issues within climate financing. So the area of climate governance, that is from management, accountability structures, processes and systems that would accrue very effective climate programs and implementation of projects. That's a really big gap that we are really trying to fill, and maybe I hope the academy tries in its way to be able to hold that. The second one is sustainability financing, and that's a really huge gap that we face. And I can tell you, even now, every day, the only request that comes to my desk is the issue of sustainable financing. Where do we get the resources? How do we get the resources? How do we utilize? How do we measure? How do we create impact? So that's another huge gap that if people, and one of the honest conversation I had with these technical people for various ministries within the continent, they were around 44, so representing 44 countries, and one of the honest conversation they were able to tell me is sometimes the issue is not that they can't access funding. Sometimes it's the understanding of how to access that funding that's the biggest challenge for them. They're willing to put the work, but the understanding is not there. And no one is willing to take the time to train them. So this is really timely, and I can tell you governments will be your first clients. It's a really huge struggle that we see every day. The other thing is maybe I would want to mention, and so this happened like I think 4 weeks ago. I was the East African community, and we had various ministers from the East Africa. So it was the ministers of finance, specifically Ministry of Finance, and some of them ministers of environment. And so we had a 4-day workshop and convening, and some of them were PSs, and we were taking them through what are the opportunities of climate funds that they could leverage on. So they were only ministers, and I remember one particular minister mentioned to me, sometimes one of the biggest challenges they face is how to quantify the amount they need and how to showcase justification that with this particular amount of that they require, it would create this particular impact. Sometimes it's very hard to actualize impact when it comes to climate programs. And so that's another area you could look at. And this is an area they really struggle in. And the other thing is to quantify the impact of $1 in terms of any donor who tries to be able to fund them. So these were like honest conversations we had with them for 3 days. The other challenge they mentioned to me is the evolving nature of climate funds. And I'm going to maybe highlight, and that's something you all maybe could focus. So there's a reform currently ongoing when it comes to the climate governance structure, and this is in two phases: the climate governance and the climate architecture, the climate finance architecture. And what we mean by the climate finance architecture, we are looking at the global funds when it comes to assessing climate funds. So this is the GEF, the GCF, the adaptation fund, and there are around 6, I think. I've just forgotten maybe 2. And so the US Treasury sent us a note in terms of the kind of reforms they would be suggesting when it comes to the climate funding architecture, and this will be shared ahead of COP28. So this is something interesting you could look out in terms of how to ensure that even as we design this particular school or academia, how do we ensure we leave a room for evolution? And this is always the hardest part when it comes to designing programs, that you have a window and a room that you allow arising matters and arising changes, such as what we are experiencing currently, to inform the design of this particular tool. Because how effective a program is really depends on how dynamic and you can be to the changes that are occurring within the environment. So that is in the aspect of sustainable financing. The other thing would be climate justice, and this is very interesting for me. So the climate justice is very interesting because it's not really a topic that people want to talk about really a lot, and those people who talk about beat around the bush about it. But when you think about it, we don't have a problem, I think, from where I see it, there's a lot of funding when it comes to climate. The always hardest part is how to assess it. But the other question, when you pin it down, is how do we ensure accountability measures, accountability structures? And this is where the area of climate justice comes. And I remember, so around on May, for 10 to 15 days, I spent my time at the Yale University School of Environmental Studies. And so I had a cohort of around 30 students that I had been invited who come for summer school programs. And so I was supposed to take them through climate, how they could understand the climate financing structure. And so one of the topics that she's called Professor Dosita, and she heads the climate school of Yale, and she told me, why don't you take them through climate justice programs? And so I asked her, why is it important for you guys to understand climate justice program? Because from the other end, and one of the interesting things that came out for me is, if we must be really careful that we might end up lobbying, but we don't have people who are going to call out in functionality within the systems. And so what we have is everyone is paying attention to climate issues, but no one is paying attention to how effective are the structure and system of governance. And so climate justice is really nice, and we shouldn't really let it to CSOs as always. And this is the other conversation. And so last year we had a meeting with CSOs, and this was the first conference the bank ever held with CSOs. And PACJA, I think, was the one leading, because I was part of the committee and I could see them lobbying a lot of issues. But then I began saying, but why is it only PACJA coming and speaking out? Why don't we have education institutions coming out and speaking about climate justice program? And so I'm really, really happy, and that's an area that we are seeing a lot of evolving funding coming to, but also a need that is required. So maybe those 3 areas out of my experience, but as I went, I'm very careful. I knew I have 3 to 5 minutes. So there's something about designing programs, whether internally or externally, that you need to be careful about. So 3 things. You need to have an idea how this program can be assessed. So assess is something that we need to communicate clearly. How do we plan for people to assess the program? And so assess could be in various forms. So there's assess, quality, and affordability. So those are the 3 areas that determines the effectiveness of a delivery program, whatever way and angle you look at it. So it would be really important that you could design a very good program, but if you miss to design quality, and what I can see, the quality has been met here very well. So the question is affordability and accessibility. This could really impact hugely on how we are able to see the effectiveness of this program. So we need to take care of that. And as I finish, maybe on my own understanding about the program, is a few things also we need to take care to ensure that this program meets the evolving needs. So number one, maybe it's time to look at what is the concept of green economy and labor market assessments when it comes to this program. So this is to ensure that this particular program has an idea of what the labor market wants and needs. So maybe the concept of green economy and labor market assessment should be an interesting thing. The other thing would be what are the kind of environmental sectors and green jobs that this particular program could be targeting? And that's something you should see. So we need to look at this program at the end of it serving the labor market. So because that's the only way it's going to be effective. The people coming to take it are because they're going to impact a particular section of the labor market. And so I'm going to take you through the ILO. So there's an ILO guide and training toolkit when it comes to climate financing and labor market. So you could look at it. I could perhaps share the link and look at the models and theory, and we use it at the bank when we are designing these particular modules and trainings internally for the bank. The other fourth area that I forgot, and maybe it's something you could add. So we as a staff in the bank were able to put maybe 1 month of our time to study, and we were taken through how to build climate resilient infrastructure. Why? Because that's what governments are struggling about. So that's also something you could look about it. And then in an aspect of that, look at the model of what does private-public partnership mean when it comes to the context of climate resilient infrastructure, but also sustainable financing? This is an area that I'm just highlighting that you could be able to pick it out. But the interesting things, this is the only way you can measure how effective this program is. You only measure it by the areas of demand that it's needed. So this is the areas I've mentioned for me when I thought about it. How do we measure really the success and intrinsically of sustainable development goals in the context of how we are today and where we are today? We only measure it by meeting the gap and the demands of the areas I have just highlighted. So with that, I hope that this becomes then the training that leads to a very project-based training, as one of the leaders mentioned, that we offer that, but 2, we also offer a sound base of evidence-based training. That these particular areas that I have just highlighted could be the areas that they give a sounding effect and a sounding thoughtful processes when it comes to evidence-based training. And so I really hope that, this begins an amazing journey, and congratulations to all of you, and I look forward to a great partnership ahead. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. As in, just what you said is enough for 3 modules alone. So that's an education. We're launching an academy, but that in itself was an education, at least for me. I don't know if I'm speaking for anyone else here. The ones who felt that, yes, you join me in the corner, we'll exchange notes. I've taken quite a few. We continue to hear from the partners, and hey, in line with just some of the things we've learned. Now we want to hear what we'd call, I guess, the youth perspective from the African Youth Commission. We're talking about someone who possesses 8 years experience in the implementation of climate change and environment, renewable and sustainable energy projects. This is the African Activists for Climate Justice Project Lead at AYC, the African Youth Commission. Kaduyu Michael. Once again, the hand clap can't just end there. I mean, I know times are tough, but we can afford a few more claps.
Thank you so much. I think you are so far my favorite MC. This kind of introduction should be... Isn't it? My friend. For those who know me, I'm a bit unorthodox. I don't follow procedures so much, but I'll try today. So if you look at the program, I'm also meant to encourage you to subscribe and pay for this program. But at the same time, I need to tell you why it is important for this program to be led by the Africans themselves at the end of the day. Just a simple question. Who read the IPCC report, the current one? I'm not surprised by the hands that are being raised. The other tables, please. Okay, who knew that there's an IPCC report that was launched? Okay. Philip, stop hiding. Oh, he's left. Okay. My point is, if you look at the IPCC report and you go to the research or the funding that comes for research for Africa, it's very minimal. And the reason behind it, or the thing that I don't subscribe to, is that there are very few African scientists or experts who do well-founded or well-grounded research to warrant being in the IPCC reports. But at the same time, there's the need to ensure that at least the African scientists or the experts within that are really doing a lot of research. Their work is really published in journals that are really, we call them peer-reviewed journals. And to subscribe to a peer-reviewed journal, for your article to appear, it's really expensive. There are some peer-reviewed journals that are, for you to get your article to be published, it's almost 2,500 USD. And if you are an expert, you've done a lot of research, you've put in your effort, you put in, and again you're expected to pay for the work that it's expected to help in trying to solve these issues of climate change, then it beats logic, right? So for me, one thing that I am happy about that ACT is doing, Dr. Kilelo and Dr. Winston Ojeng have given you exactly what ACT is doing. And as African Youth Commission, we are so happy because we know that there has been an emerging trend whereby there are a lot of models or training modules that are really encouraging people to subscribe, also to learn. Your background may not be research, or you may not be a negotiator, or you may not be a climate modeler, but these training modules at least help you to give you direction or give you traction of how to engage in this thing. So I just wanted to start with that by saying that it is really important to know that there's a gap in terms of African scientists, and also the publishing their paper in a well-respected journals, but there is research that is going on in Africa. So how do we bridge that gap? You will help me answer that. But just to say that we all know that under the climate change, we have three things that are enabling factors that can help us bridge the gap on climate change, and that is technology transfer, climate finance, and capacity building. And if you look at the programs that ACT is doing, technology transfer is taken care of because you heard about the digital economy that was being taken care of. The program that we are trying to launch today helps cover on issue of capacity building. Should you subscribe to it? Then on matters of climate finance, Winnie has just mentioned what the AFDB is doing. But at the same time, I think we need to start challenging the climate finance narrative because the entire architecture is skewed. If you talk to a climate finance expert, money is meant to be flowing from somewhere to Africa to come and help us, isn't it? If you say yes, I'll know we are together. Okay. But so far, the thing has not worked. Ever since climate finance was launched, I don't know which year, we have stuck to the dream of 100 billion USD that was promised in, was it Cancun or Copenhagen? To date, it was Copenhagen. To date, it is never materialized. We've not even reached halfway mark. But the problem is that we have potential that we are not exploiting. Like for instance, how do we take care of our domestic climate finance needs? We are not quantifying that. There are a lot of actions that are being done by yourselves to try and respond to climate change, but we do not quantify that, or that is not recorded as climate finance. we need researchers, we need scientists to tell us the data, because there is a lot of climate finance that is really being, or that is being utilized within our own countries internally, that is not being recorded at the global level. So all we are interested in is what GCF is giving us, what Jeff Green Environmental Facility is giving us, what Adaptation Fund is giving us, what the Special Climate Finance Fund is giving us. All those things are what we mentioned, but we forget that there are things that we are taking care of internally. But as AYC, so what is AYC? Africa Youth Commission is a youth organization that was founded in 2017 in Addis Ababa. It is in 46 countries, with our headquarters being in the Gambia, but we have a regional office here in Kenya. And currently we are implementing a project called African Activists for Climate Justice. It's a project being implemented in South Africa, Mozambique, Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Senegal. And the purpose is to ensure that at the end of the 5 years of the project, at least we have Africans who are telling our own stories. We have a movement that has been built at the end of the day of African activists who are pushing our own narratives. And that is what we are pushing for at the end of the day. Finally, I just want to say that the model that is being launched today is one thing that is really clearly thought out, and is backed by an African entity that was founded by an African scientist, and has built its reputation through research by Africans themselves. So I don't know what else I can say more when it comes to ACTS being the people that are really pushing or are launching this today as the godfathers of this. But I'll say that one thing that you should not doubt is the quality of work that comes out of ACTS. If you are not convinced of anything, just be happy. If you don't know the history of ACTS, maybe we can be told later. If you don't know the quality of work that they do, visit their website. Fiona has given us how you can access their online platforms. And for me, what stands out to associate with ACTS is that whenever we see a lot of climate modules being launched and everything, majority of them are being launched from the global north. But we have our own entity that is African-centered, by researchers who've schooled in Africa, who've done research, who've had their work being reviewed by their own colleagues from here in Africa, and they can say confidently that this is the research that is needed by all of us, that can work for us because they have modeled it and they have seen results. For me, that's what I want to subscribe to as a young person, as a young climate change activist, or as a young climate expert. And for me, I want to ensure that the certificate that I get has that power, or has that, how do I say? When somebody sees it, when I go for an interview and I pull it, everybody remembers, oh, this is ACTS. They're the ones who are issuing this certificate from the module that is being done. So I want to challenge all of you, kindly. If you're not convinced about anything else, please. The program is trying to help you to be part. Not all of us can be staffs at ACTS, but at least the program helps you to be associated to ACTS. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Now, earlier we had, it was envisioned that we would have time to have a nice panel session. See the lovely chairs that I put up for you, and all. But because of time, that may not be possible. However, you may have either questions or reactions that you want to share. So just write it down so that you don't forget. May give you a chance to at least react, or if there's some specific speaker you want to address a question to, then we'll give you that opportunity. But now, we want to hear from someone. Remember earlier I'd mentioned my dad worked at ISIPE, and he was a research scientist. Well, this one previously worked as a research scientist at, that's in the field of energy, at the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, with a vast experience in renewable energy technologies. But currently, this is the Resource Mobilization and Business Development Manager at the National Environmental Trust Fund, that is NETFund. And the principal responsibility of this next speaker is design and development of projects and mobilization of resources for project implementation. I am speaking, of course, about Crispin Omondi Onyango. Dun, 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 dun. You've never been introduced like that, just admit.
Thank you, Efesi. So I'm Crispin Omondi, not as big as Efesi is introducing. I'm here to represent my CEO, Mr. Samson Tonyok, who unfortunately could not be able to come. And just to give a brief comments from him. Number one, I was requested to basically introduce NETFund. I don't know how many have heard about NETFund before. NETFund. Okay. So we are a fund, a trust fund, under the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. And our core mandate is to mobilize resources for environmental actions. And you know that environment is quite broad, and this cross-cuts climate change as well as forestry. And we work in collaboration with different partners, and this includes development partners, both global funds, multilateral and bilateral development partners, including the African Development Bank. We work closely with the CSOs, NGOs, the private sector, SMEs, and individuals. And this said and done, our main focus areas are restoration, circular economy, waste management, of course falling under circularity, as well as air quality. I know that's an area that ACTS is also focusing on. And we are also looking at basically capacity building. And I think that is where I'd want to speak more about. So under our business development function, we have a training program that we run on a quarterly basis. So a series of trainings, and our trainings are basically focused on resource mobilization, designing and developing bankable projects, as well as project management. And these trainings are done in collaboration with certified institutions. So currently we are working with the Kenya School of Governance, and with this we are running trainings that are focusing on building the capacities of county governments to access climate finance, as my colleague Winnie from the bank just noted. And we are also partnering with the Project Management Institute, this is the PMI, to offer certified trainings in project management. And this is a training that targets the private sector, government institutions, and CSOs. And we are also working with the Kenya Association of Fundraising Professionals, and basically on offering training on resource mobilization. And the unique thing with our trainings is that they are not just desktop trainings. These are actually practical trainings that incorporate something that we call a donor marketplace. And this means that as we train you, we are basically looking at coming up with a product or an output that is sellable. So we would normally have a series of trainings that ends up with you pitching your projects to donors who actually have funding opportunities. So far, we've been able to run around 9 trainings, and we had the following development partners on board: the African Development Bank, who've been very supportive through the African Climate Change Fund. We have the United Nations, different agencies, but more so UNDP, and we also have USAID. And out of our trainings, we've actually been able to have success stories of actual trainees or trainee institutions that have had their programs funded. We also offer customized trainings to different institutions, and this could be trainings beyond environment, beyond climate change, and beyond forestry. We also have trainings that just purely focus on boards and executives. We realized from experience that to successfully secure resources, the success starts from the board and the executives. If they don't understand their roles in supporting this, then ideally the technical teams will struggle. So basically why there is need to set aside adequate resources to support the technical teams. And we've also have customized trainings in cooperation with development partners. So currently, I'd like to just mention that we have secured some funds from the Climate Investment Funds, and this is through the World Bank. And we'll be inviting acts because starting from the month of August, we'll be designing an investment plan for the country. And the investment plan is basically your big business plan for the country, your wish list that wishes to be funded. We have secured a window of 34 million, 34 billion Kenyan shillings, and this can be for different areas. So Dr. Joel will be looking forward to that. So basically speaking, I personally see potential areas of partnership and collaboration between NetFund and ACTS, especially on this academy. I'd like to officially note that we are open for an official meeting and sitting, so that instead of running things differently and ad hocly, we can actually do one synergistic program. So thank you. That's it from us.
Thank you very much, Crispin. So we are coming pretty much to the close of. Actually, that's the close of the formal, speeches and presentations. If you do have something that you'd like addressed, or maybe there's a question you have, or even a reaction, now is a good time for that. I'll come around with the microphone, and you can either ask a question, or does anyone have something that they'd like to say in reaction, or in, well, out of curiosity about a particular aspect of what you've heard and seen today? In which case, I would like to just recognize the few organizations actually. You've just heard from Crispin from NetFund. Actually, maybe this is just my own. Just want to thank you for being generous with the information that you've given us today. Winnie, that was, for me, I think Winnie, I'll just talk to you afterwards, because wow. Yes, there are a lot of really amazing notes here. So for African Development Bank, African Youth Commission, AYC, NetFund, UNESCO, want to recognize and thank you for your partnership, and also for standing behind the visionaries of APA. And would also like to recognize SBC. Is there a representative who was yes? Joel would like you to say a few words, or in fact, Joel will come, and because there are a lot of partners who have been with him on this journey, and would like to really recognize you.
Actually, starting the other way around. So the academy in itself has had a lot of support. There are different organizations in the room that have given different levels of support, apart from the ACTS team. And I just wanted to say thank you and recognize these different organizations. I know online we have the team from EFD, the Ethiopia Forest Development. Dr. Zenebe, if you're there, and if you wanted to say a few things, I know we are running out of time, but just to say thank you from the EFD for the continued support, and we'll always be coming back to you for continuous conversation. Also, we have the University of Zimbabwe, worked with us through the last 3 years in different contexts, in training and capacity building, and I want to appreciate them as well as part of this conversation. We also have recently added SBC, Sustainable Business Consulting, from the private sector side of things, SME, really pushing the sustainability agenda. and knowing that the institution, the academy also focuses on that. So the SBC team, Asanteni, for your in-kind and also cash support. Then we also have the two other colleagues. I think we have the Praise Company, who's also in the room. Praise Company has been in the forefront, and probably they'll be reaching out for more to the partners in different regards for telling you more about the academy. And of course, you have BrandSpark. BrandSpark has been also very instrumental in making sure that this launch happens in blue and orange. I think when we asked blue and orange as colors, it was very useful for us. And you see the tables are either blue or orange. Maybe we should play a blue or orange game. Maybe it's useful to also recognize the actual ACTS team, people who've made this happen. Maureen at the back of the room, wave for us and do a little dance for this initiative. We have Martin at the back, a little dance from you. We have Elizabeth, who has also been very instrumental for making this happen. We have Fiona, who's also been very supportive, and the entire ACTS collective for being part of this useful session, but also the academy and seeing it through. So just to make the speeches less, I'll hand over back to you, FSC. Thank you.
And as you hand over back to me, I invite someone for another speech. But it's actually pretty much the kind of coming to the conclusion. Those are many C's. Coming to the conclusion, yes, of the formal session. You will, of course, be able to interact, just on the side. If you want to talk to someone about whether it's partnership opportunities or engagement in any way, that opportunity is still available. And of course, there's still breakfast, so you can have that over something to eat. But right now, what I want to do is introduce you to someone who holds not one, not two, but 3 patents, and also has 3 others that are in review. Wait. How many of you have patents? The closest we have to something spelled like that is parents, or patent 3. Then this is someone who has a PhD in computer science from the Technical University of Kenya. Heads the Digital Economic Program at ACTS. That's African Center for Technology Studies. That's why we're here. This doctor is a senior research fellow, and you've heard him speak already before. And of course, as he spoke, he emphasized a lot on AI, because that's not only an area of passion, but it's also an area in which he holds a patent. So please put your hands together as you welcome back again Dr. Winston Ojenge. Yes, this ndio tuko. So
you know, that's really part of the movie role. There's no such person. That's a fictitious continuation of my friend here. When these things are spoken, they look so big, but when you come down to the technical of it, you realize it's really the standard stuff. I was invited to offer, I think, closing words on behalf of the executive director for the center, ACTS, Professor Tom Ogada, who had to go away to attend to an urgent assignment, and therefore regretfully is not able to be part of this. So I will just go through this very quickly, just to remind ourselves what was spoken here, because really it's the big picture that we are all coming out with here. So within this conversation we have had from the various discipline areas or knowledge areas, what is the big thing that we are taking away from today? We know that Joel came in and introduced his baby, and he mentioned the 3 concerns that the academy will be addressing, that is climate change, then also convene international discourses around climate change, and then training. And then Catherine, who is part of our GC, who is part of the program committee and the governing committee, also mentioned about I think I'm mixing issues. Catherine, who's my colleague, who is heading the agricultural, food security and nutrition program, talked about how the program is going to exploit this platform. And she said that it's going to certainly promote what her main concern has been, that is agri-food system, through training, and this training would be demand-driven and would also be project-based. And I think that's a very powerful way to address our food systems. Then, of course, Winston who came in and talked about how their program, which is digital economy, is then going to host their training modules in AI, and also insisted that it would be project-based, which seems to be very powerful. Fiona came and told us how to register, and she talked about ACTS. Your focus, you should be on the ACTS website, and also speak to our staff, even in these last few minutes before we all get away. UNESCO, Dr. Jasimi Mary of UNESCO, pointed out the need for climate change education and its impact on the climate change itself, and mentioned that a very important thing, that Africa contributes less than 1% to the emissive impact on our environment. That is the emissions that are coming out that are killing our environment, and yet it's reaping some of the biggest impacts, ill impacts, and therefore we need to focus as Africans on how to enable or support the rest of the world in mitigating this. Then Winnie Mutai from African Development Bank pointed us to how we can access funds from them, and one thing that I picked out, which to me is very important, is that she mentioned some of the packages and some of their focus areas that I would certainly be reaching out to them about how to get the money from them. Thank you very much, Winnie, for telling us this. Then African Youth Commission, that is Kaduyu. Michael, Kaduyu, what do you like? Is it wine or tea, so that I can see how to budget for this next month? Because you really made my day by saying one statement, that the academy is driven by indigenous African players, researchers, and founder. And that founder actually has a legacy foundation after him, named after him, and it would be nice for us to see how to also load that legacy foundation onto these activities that we are carrying out here. Then Crispin Omondi then came after a serious movie role that was better than even mine, and talked about the capacity building opportunities. And he mentioned one very nice thing, which also made my day, my morning, that the World Bank has given them 34 billion Kenya shillings. So Joel, let's see how we can get part of this money, please. All of us need the academy. But more so, it's the center and the virtual academy drivers, that is Joel, who then needs to see how to put all of us together, because we have already given detail of our needs and some of the focus areas of our activities, so that he can consolidate the big picture and how to converge us with our interests onto the virtual academy. So on behalf of the Executive Director for Center, I really show gratitude for your being here. Your presence has made our day and has kicked off this academy in the right gear. And thank you very much. And it would be nice to see you again in a more concerted set of activities around the academy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, there's just one more, but this one is online, and it's from the lead of the Climate Change Directorate in the Ethiopia Forest Ethiopia Forest Development, that's EFD, and Dr. Zenebe is online. If we're ready to allow Dr. Zenebe to speak. Dr. Zenebe, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. It is nice. Is that audible?
Yes. Go ahead. You had
thank you.
You had something to say. Yes.
Thank you. I'm Zannaba Makonnen from Ethiopian Forestry Development, Ethiopia Addis Ababa. I'm very happy to be involved in this launch of the Virtual Academy of Acts. As you know, currently climate change is a critical issue, global context, as well as in Africa, particularly the African continent is critically affected by climate change. So building this access pathway is, we are collaborating each other. Climate change needs a collaboration among countries, particularly we Africans need to collaborate and act on climate change in order to save our communities and our people. So Access Pathway is an initiative to strengthen capacity building among African countries. It is a good initiative. Last year we have been working together in the CAPSET project, and now the opening and the launching of this virtual academy is also very important to capacitate African scientists, because there is a capacity gap, a communication gap in Africa to share climate change issues. The main thing is climate needs collaboration and the communication of each other among African countries, so we can collaborate, strengthen capacity building in order to adapt climate change, which is a critical issue for African development, and making collaboration among institutions like we are taking the training courses last year and applying into practical action in their individual institutions. So building capacity, strengthening on this climate change issue, I think the launching of this virtual academy is very important to strengthen our cooperation and strengthen cooperation among African countries. And I'm very happy for the launch of this virtual academy. And I hope we will strongly work together in the future. And thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zenebe. And now as we come to the conclusion of this, you've heard the word or the phrase climate change quite a bit. And every part where a speaker or someone who's made a presentation has mentioned the word gap, that's an opportunity. So there's, whether it's for capacity building or even a module or a course, because today it's all about launching an academy that offers training of professionals, courses, executive courses, self-paced learning, so that those of us who prefer to take things at a certain pace, you know what to do with that. Bespoke learning for people who have experienced anything bespoke, you know how important that is. And summer schools. And all this is in collaboration with partners, with visionaries, with people who actually believe in taking that step, because we have everything that we need. We have everything that it takes. And so to bring this here, to bring us here, and the reason we are here today, we'd like to say a big thank you to all the members, all the staff, all the partners of ACTS. Actually, since you will be interacting with them afterwards, anyone who is affiliated directly to ACTS, please just wave your hand so that, yes, you can, yes. They're waiting for Joel to raise his hands first. All right, you can interact with them afterwards, but we do want to extend our gratitude to you for allowing us to be a part of this vision, allowing us to share in it, and also thank you for breakfast. Yeah, we culturally you have to thank people for food when they've given it to you, and thank you for joining us this morning. for taking time out to come here and join us as observers, listeners, partners, and advisors in whatever capacity you may have joined us this morning. We say a big thank you. My name is Yafesi Musoke, and if you want me to do a movie trailer version for you, just so that you be entering rooms, yeah, see me on the side over there. But I've been your MC. Thank you so much for tolerating me, Dr. Ojenge, and for having me here with you. Have a wonderful morning. Please don't rush away. There's still food and there's beverages on the side. But thank you very much.